To turn in at the gate from Hampstead Heath and walk through the dark wood is to walk away from daily tribulations and shrug off individuality until by the time you've reached the pond, you, as all the others before and after, have become only what you need to be, a lady swimmer.
On the tube to work, I want to shout, "I saw the kingfisher today!" to the unsuspecting travellers.
December the 12th. A really dark morning. In fact, it's not morning at all, but night time when I leave the house. There is hardly any light for the surfaces of the ponds to reveal themselves.
The pond, for all of us, a source of comfort, friendship, solace, peace, exquisite and sometimes glorious. Like climbing into a painting and for a few moments of the day being part of something beautiful and then holding that loveliness inside till next time.
Did we take the pond for granted? I don't think so. It's too remarkable, and for London, and also for England, unusual. Free swimming in natural surroundings. But why is it unusual? There should be places like this in every town and every London borough.
I started swimming in the Heath at a point of great stress in my life, as is often the case I've found from interviewing people, that they discover the pond and the pond gives back a sort of emotional energy.
Okay.
Just need to put a little bit on the sides here. Gives people a bit of grip when they come out. Dropping to 5 degrees Celsius, 42 Fahrenheit. It'll probably get colder. And last year this time it was 2, wasn't it?
The best time to see it is really in summer, because that's when it's the most beautiful. It's like being in a fairy tale.
There's a nest up at the top. There's a nest up there.
Yes, I know, right at the top.
I haven't seen what's nesting in it.
It's a coot.
I would be one of those people who would turn up on a wonderful day and lie in the meadow and go and dip in the pond itself. And it wasn't until about 8 or 9 years ago when I stopped working and I was able then to carry on swimming, and I decided to swim in the early morning. And about 5 years ago, I was swimming through until the end of October, and 1 year I decided to come back and swim in November. And I just decided then that it was what I had to do every day of the winter.
Frankie, there's the odd stick about. I don't know why.
Okay, no,
But there is, but just be careful.
yes, I can see it.
Okay.
People sometimes suggest that a swimming place for women only is archaic and pointless in the 21st century. But if that's so, why has it survived so long? Clearly, thousands of women like it. But perhaps the key to its survival is that there are alternatives. It's one of 4 open-air swimming places on Hampstead Heath, all of them packed on hot summer days. There's a pond for mixed swimming and also a pond for men only. There's also a purpose-built Lido, which, as older swimmers remember, was narrowly saved from closure in the 70s.
It was blue and very cold.
It's well known around London probably, and a lot of people from other areas come over to swim here as well.
It's really cold, but it's really clean. And
yeah, he gets in the water.
he loves the swimming, so
Yeah, he likes the water.
It's a nice place to meet up with your friends.
Also jumping off the springboard when it used to be there. It was really fun.
The mixed pond, a favourite with couples and families, no longer stays open through the winter months.
This is the most accessible of the ponds. It's only a few hundred meters to Hampstead Heath railway station. So people become familiar with this pond first, and it's usually the pond that they swim in first. Today doesn't really give you measure of what a fabulous place it is. I describe it as heaven on earth.
it's quite big and a bit dirty, but it's still really fun.
The best view was always from the middle. Unfortunately, I can't paint it from the middle, so I did numerous paintings from the bridge.
It's one of the few places where some sort of sanity in a big metropolitan city can be preserved. It just enriches us and nourishes us to be able to go outside into the real world and deal with those things more effectively if we've got the ponds to swim in.
The men's and women's ponds are quite different in their character. They're much larger ponds. Men's pond in particular is a much larger.
There we are, two swimmers all at once. Right. Ah, this is a porn movie, because this prepared for it. See you later. Sure, right. I must be off. Okay. I'm going to start my disagreeable journey on the tube. Bye.
I only know the 7 o'clock people, you know. I don't know later on in the day. There's a certain segment of population that we get to know, and we know each other's jokes and careers and so on.
It's very unfortunate, but I mean, I dislike what I'm hearing from the ANCYL, that's the African National Congress Youth League. I mean, they came out with something about Robert Mugabe the other day.
Yeah. It started when I was 17, I remember, and found out about it. It started coming, it was in the summer it started, and then it just carried on.
In the old days, the mixed pond was open through the year, and that was the pond that I started in and stayed in until it closed in the winter. And then I found this place, which I'd always rather kept away from, because I thought it was rather macho and brutal, but it actually doesn't turn out to be quite like that.
See you, Richard. See you, Peter. Cheers.
You have? Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, William.
Okay. We told her the rabbit went underneath a cupboard and came out so covered in dust. Complaining.
That's a good idea. We'll tie a mop to him, let him run around. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
There are days, it's not too cold, it's days when it's pissing down and you think, I'm not sure what's the point really, I'll be so wet by the time I get there. But on the whole I don't shirk it, because if I do I feel A, withdrawal symptoms, and B, guilt. Strange. It is addictive. I mean, that's the danger. You get obsessive and boring about it, as I'm in danger of being now, and just go on and on and on about why everybody should do it. But there's some truth in that. Yeah.
Hampstead Heath and its ponds are managed by the Corporation of London, not the new Greater London Authority, whose first mayor is Ken Livingstone. The corporation has roots in the Middle Ages. It governs a square mile of the city and is elected by an exclusive group of voters, mostly representing city businesses.
We had a very good relationship with the managers of the Heath until about 3 or 4 years ago, and suddenly the atmosphere towards swimmers felt different.
But the main thing came about 3 years ago, when it was clear that they were going to alter the timing of the swimming during the winter.
It meant the pond opened so late that you couldn't swim before work. And it is that swimming before work that is so very precious. Consequently, we started negotiations to establish a winter swimmers club to enable those of us who wanted to swim before work to continue to do so, but without lifeguards. The debate over whether this would be legal or not has wrangled on, and in the end, after 9 months of negotiation, the city suddenly produced a legal opinion that said no, it would never be legal and they couldn't possibly allow it.
At this stage, swimmers asked for a judicial review, and that meant a court of law would rule on whether the corporation's lawyer was right. This process had begun before there was a threat to stop swimming completely, at a time when management was imposing various other restrictions in the name of health and safety.
Because we were pressing them all the time, they instituted an assessment of the swimming facilities on the Heath, drafted in some absolutely wonderful consultants, and produced the most dire report.
There was a report about cold water swimming being dangerous, and then we had a period when breaking the ice was forbidden and we couldn't swim in the icy pond. And one of the joys of winter swimming is swimming in an icy pond. And we had the rather farcical situation of notices in the changing room saying cold water swimming is dangerous. And of course, we who do it regularly know that it's not dangerous, it's extremely good for us.
My first winter, I don't think I was more excited than the days when I knew that there was going to be ice on the pond. Because you'd get into the water and you'd start swimming and you'd be surrounded by this tinkling sound, and it was almost like singing. I was elected chair of the Kenwood Ladies Pond Association in March 2004, and it was in October, so it was less than 6 months after, that I received a letter from the Corporation of London to inform us that in fact there was going to be a management committee meeting which was going to discuss budget issues, and the budget was going to be a question of a cuts budget, and the key thing for us was that there was a proposal they were going to close the mixed pond, and it would be a permanent closure. And within the document it was also clear that there was possibility of other ponds being affected or charges being imposed. And of course, from the beginning of December onwards, it was very clear that there was going to be a response from the swimmers.
Save our swimming at yahoo.co.uk.
The heath is a heath, it's a common land, it's not a park, and that's what the corporation are trying to do. They're trying to turn it into a business park.
The point I want to make is to do with money again. If you charge people entrance, the next step, and you probably have said this, is a little kiosk selling ice cream. And then another little kiosk selling cappuccino.
They have betrayed us. They betrayed a trust. They were given this. They have betrayed us in the most disgusting way, in the most bureaucratic way.
We do need to have a sort of, some kind of dialogue where positions don't get hard.
I disagree with the previous speaker. I think there's no point in being passive and quiet. We should be as noisy and loud as possible.
The fact that they're so secretive about their concerns about future budgets, without ever expressing it publicly and ever talking to users about what the implications may well be, seems to me, it's in that's their problem.
The heath does not belong to the corporation, as lots of people have said, and I think as Jane is saying, we stick with that at this stage and then have some fallbacks.
The notion that somehow the ponds, an integral and defining part of the heath, need to conform to a consultant suggestion of some kind of monetary value or return is wholly inappropriate. If commercial economics were the criterion, there would be no Hampstead Heath, and never would have been. Moreover, the true economic value of the Hampstead ponds, in terms of what economists call opportunity cost, is enormous, including their social and, inverted commas, spiritual value.
I don't think it's a job of the USA or any of the other swimming associations to sit round a table with Mr. Lee and Mrs. McGuinness or Miss McGuinness to discuss details of management. That's not our job. Our job is to get transparency of accounts. The Audit Commission doesn't audit the sums of money that are involved, and this is absolutely scandalous because it's public money. It may come from obscure city funds in part, but nevertheless, it is money that is in the public domain, and I think we should know exactly where it's going.
The most sensitive point that we have to attack on
is to get the access to the information so that we can make this argument and show what they've done.
I think it's terribly important that we don't let the corporation divide the users of the Heath.
I'm Joy Walter. As you've heard, I have been raising a petition. Most of you have signed it already, and those who haven't, I'd invite you to do that tonight. So stand for open and free. Do not think about letting them charge, is what I say.
The United Swimmers Association was a sort of an umbrella organisation. It was through the United Swimmers Association that really the campaign has been welded together. It was a run-up to Christmas. It was a time when, in fact, it is the darkest time of the year. It's the bleakest time of the year. It's a time of the year when people don't want to go out to meetings, don't necessarily want to go out.
Mummy, you know what I want, Mummy?
What?
I want some chewing gum, one of the pinky ones.
I haven't got any of the pinky ones.
Joe does.
It was always a struggle about getting people out and getting people to do things. But I think the level of response just typifies what, in fact, people think about these ponds. And it's not going to be something that is easily going to be, put away, whatever the decision is going to be in terms of the corporation.
Just a heap of rubble, all that was left after the huge explosion. Iraqi police have stormed into the building after being tipped off that Islamic militants from abroad were using it as a base. It was a trap.
I suppose that for many people, when we're just been through a period of time of seeing what was happening in Iraq, to look at things like the tsunami, to know that, in fact, for many people in the world, just pure existence is incredibly difficult. It may seem a real luxury to be arguing about whether, in fact, we have 1, 2, 3, or any swimming ponds. But I think that the thing that we've got to keep holding on to is the idea that, concerned as we are, and for many of us, we do spend time and money thinking about and finding ways of supporting people outside Britain. It's hugely important as well to keep saying that what we have here has to also be fought for. We shouldn't be going to the minimum, we should be demanding the maximum.
I've been absolutely amazed and delighted by the response that we've had to the campaign, and if I reflect on it, I think it must be due to a number of things. One of these things is that everybody is now alert to the kind of drip destruction of our access to all sorts of things, and the notion of charging for swimming. We all know it's a complete red herring. It'll be charges for swimming today, charges to go on the Heath tomorrow.
That's good. Good running.
We had to fight to have the Heath in the first place, and every little bit of it that's been added since has been fought for, collected for, and has been meeting a need of the public. And if we lose any bit of it now, it'll be lost forever.
For me, the Heath has been the most important part about being in London. I can't think of any city that's got an area of land that is as varied and as variable as the Heath, and quite exceptional in terms of both its differences and its wildness. And it's still a heathland. When I first came to London, the Heath was managed by the Greater London Council. Margaret Thatcher in the 1980s decided that the Greater London Council was a complete pain for her. She required the political power of the Greater London Council to be finished, and she decided to abolish it. There was a major discussion going on about what ought to happen to the Heath. It was very, very worrying for a lot of people, because we knew that, in fact, none of the boroughs surrounding the Heath were going to have sufficient money to be able to maintain it. And what happened was the Corporation of London, in an incredibly magnanimous gesture, it appears, decided that they would offer to take over the Heath, as they did with some of the other open spaces. Now, I say magnanimous, but when the Greater London Council had been operating, the City of London had been giving money to the GLC in order to redistribute to some of the poorer boroughs. So when the GLC was abolished, the Corporation of London was one of the places, the City of London was one of those places which gained hugely. It no longer had to pay out money to help poorer areas.
The decision to hand the Heath over to such an unrepresentative, undemocratic authority was intensely controversial at the time. The conflict over the ponds has reminded us all about that. Some of the support that's come from further afield than London has come from other people involved in their own campaigns to maintain access to open water swimming. It's a real pity there's been a need for campaigns. It used to be taken for granted, after all, that you could bathe in any swimmable water nearby and it would be free. And swimming in natural water is such a pleasure. So faced with landowners and local authorities trying to ban swimming, swimmers have been driven to get organised. Some of us from the ponds have been involved in a national campaign and visited other campaigns around the country. Well, we've been to Hatchmere, a lake near Liverpool, where swimmers successfully overturned a ban. But it's a complicated story, involving Cheshire Wildlife Trust, the lottery, and a fishing club.
In 1997, Cheshire Wildlife bought it from the previous owner with lottery money and decided that the best thing to do to have least work and better control of the lake was to give it to a fishing club. So that's what they did, and at the same time they closed the bay that we just swam through. They put a fence across it. We went to MPs and we went to the lottery. We found the contract, the standard conditions of grant, and that says that the place must be kept open to the public. And would you believe the lottery first backed them up? They couldn't do anything wrong. So we realized that we have a fight with the lottery. And it took altogether 3 years. What really turned the tide was that we wrote a report. It was based on years of collecting information. And what we did, we sent it to them for their comments before it goes on a special website, which we set up just... We sent it to them. We took out the name lotteryscandals.co.uk and we put a picture of Hatchmere, just a lovely picture of an afternoon in Hatchmere, on the webpage. That I think I told you that. That was the only thing that was on the webpage, on the website. And we sent them that report, and we started monitoring what happens to the website. And I tell you, from the moment that arrived in the post, every hour somebody from the lottery was looking at that picture. So we knew we were on a winner. Yeah. And after that, they cooperated.
Nearer London, we've been to support swimmers trying to overturn a swimming ban at Black Park in Buckinghamshire.
As a child, we used to come over here, ride our bikes over here, go in the swimming area and swim. It should be kept open, definitely. Well, we're trying to sort of have these regular Sunday meetings at Black Park.
Go on.
Where everyone gets together, we just chill out, we go in the water. We want to keep it open, definitely.
One of our pond regulars is driving a campaign to restore swimming in a series of lakes in Rickmansworth, where she swam as a child.
We used to cycle there from Harrowweald, 10 miles.
Really?
And swim, you know.
In that speedboat, that orange speedboat, told me it was illegal. Right, well, I want to go to court.
That can be arranged.
You said you can't swim here?
He said it.
Did you say you can't swim here?
He said it's illegal.
He said it's illegal. It's illegal to swim here.
What did you say? You can?
I said, well, I want to go to court in that case.
I see.
He said that could be arranged.
Oh, tell me off.
Terribly deep, dangerous water. Terribly dangerous. It's really, really nice swimming here. But apparently it's illegal. But I don't understand how it can be illegal.
The sailing club used to be up to there, and all the rest was for swimming.
But it's all about money. This place, when they objected, they said, well, we're building a £3 million clubhouse. In other words, we're paying for this facility, you're not.
And to me, it just reeks of what is happening increasingly. In virtually every single town this is happening. There was a very interesting letter written by somebody in support of the ponds, and it was a woman from Kentish Town. Now, the Hampstead Heath ponds may not be the Bamian borders, but the threat of their closure evokes the same feeling of despair at the short-sightedness of leadership.
It's in today's C&J, as I'm sure you already know. The story on the... It's up here, on the pond.
I saw,
Yeah.
Saw it earlier.
More irritation, more anger.
This story will run and run.
Lovely piece in The Guardian. And so it goes on, really. I collect anything of interest relating to the ponds, and I've got a box full rather quickly.
The Ponds Action Group was helped by a very good press. The local papers were particularly supportive, covering every stage of the 6-month-long campaign.
Happy New Year. Oh, nice. Nice to see you walking better.
I didn't feel it.
You got your mince pie as well.
I think. Oh, yes, you've got holly too. Looks great. I think yours is wonderful colour. Thank you. Happy New Year. Oh, hurry up, Anne, I'm dying.
All the nurses used to come and swim here when I was 18. And I've just had my 70th birthday, so I intend to go on swimming here for a long time. And anyway, who would want to swim in a swimming pool when you can swim in this?
Exactly.
Why would you want to?
So beautiful.
There's Wynne. You know she's over 90.
That's a lovely smile.
There's so many taking my photo.
I know. You're becoming a celebrity these days, Wynne.
Can I just say a word or two? Please. I'm Jane Challis and I'm the chair of the Hampstead Ladies' Pond. Thank you all for coming. It's hugely important, as all of us know, to make as big a representation as possible of our support for this absolutely beautiful place. And I've just said, there's a very small girl just standing around here, and I've just said that our campaign has got to be that we maintain this pond for her to use in the way that we've used it, which is that it's open all the year and that it's free. This is the facility for women in London. It's not just for people in Hampstead. It's people who can come from all over London and know that they can be here to either swim or to just be in an environment where there is no question of them being hassled or interfered with in any way.
Everybody is also opposed to charging for all.
Challenged by the strength of public opposition to its plans, the corporation arranged a public meeting.
I suspect this is the first budgetary crisis that the corporation has experienced in the 15-16 years or so that it's taken over the running of the Heath, and I would suggest that it points to a loss of direction on the part of the corporation, a loss of its losing sight of its role in running the Heath. And this is summed up by a phrase which often comes up when you hear representatives of the corporation interviewed, particularly recently, where they talk about how they provide the swimming facilities. They do not provide the swimming facilities. The Heath provides the swimming facilities.
These problems have been developing over a number of years, but have now hit home, with a significant overspend developing for the second year in a row. And therefore we've looked at a number of savings across our budget in order to find a total saving of around £330,000 a year. We are, of course, trying to find savings which will have the minimum possible impact on the way in which we maintain the Heath and the range of facilities which we offer.
In this great international city made by such things as free museums and free pond swimming, and today I heard we have a Moscow support group forming, how come a bid for the Olympics is supported by the Corporation of London at a time when the corporation can't even keep three muddy, slimy green ponds open and free?
Thanks very much. If we don't look at our level of spending on the ponds, we are going to have to make even more savings in other areas, and that would be unfair. But can I make very clear that we have no intention of closing all the ponds altogether? We've always made clear if I could continue, we've always made clear that swimming in the ponds is a cherished tradition which we would like to see continue in a sustainable form.
But an incredible well of knowledge and passion and belief about the essence that lies on the Heath and that is that area of green space. And if you don't take away that passion and apply it to your accounts and your processes, you have misheard the meeting tonight.
A thing called Cities Cash, which is the huge fund that pays for the Heath, had been spending capital as income, and that this had been discovered. That, of course, isn't an accountancy error, it's something else.
In view of the strength of feeling that's been expressed on the question of the ponds, we are willing to explore all options to try and reduce the cost of the ponds without closing any of them.
We'd like to have a chance to work with you, not against you. So I think that you've put us on the spot. I often feel that you're saying you've got to come up with solutions by February 21st or we're going to act. We haven't had any time to act. There's been no year to sit on panels and develop a trust or develop a fundraising mechanism. And every time we make a suggestion, you say, we've already thought of that and it won't work. So what we'd like to have is time to work with you.
So those who are voting have no confidence in the current management of Heath, and can I see those who retain confidence in the current management of Heath, please?
The final decision on the ponds rests with a formal meeting of the Corporation's Heath Management Committee. The public can observe but not participate. Cameras must remain outside.
I have here 6,884 signatures to be presented to the Management Committee at the beginning of the meeting.
I'm the Corporation of London, all right?
I'm hoping that we might bring the Corporation of London to their senses. It's insane that to pay for their mismanagement of their budget, they want to close or make people pay for something which is free and one of the most wonderful experiences in the world.
Profit belongs to our times disastrously. Why should we not have some things in life which are free and pleasurable and don't make a profit?
The meeting was longer than usual with a wider discussion, but at the end they decided that they would not close any pond. They were going to institute charging, which they called self-policing, and they decided that next year they would look again at the whole questions of the funding of the ponds. At the end of the meeting, we were meant to interview Catherine McGuinness, who is the chair of the committee, to have a brief interview, really, on what had then happened.
Yes, unfortunately, Catherine McGuinness has had to go and have a meeting with Jennifer Adams and Simon Lee to discuss the ramifications of the meeting and how to communicate it to the staff and to the public. So I'm sorry, she has sent me in her stead to answer any questions that you have.
Thanks for coming, Sears, but most of the questions that I've got are specifically for Catherine. One of the major issues is quite clearly the way that the committee was using the term voluntary, and at no point was any clarification made about what the term voluntary means. Is it a voluntary contribution?
The system is a self-policing charging system that has been recommended and now approved by the committee. It's not a voluntary charging system, it is actually a charge.
We succeeded the following week to have an interview with Catherine McGuinness, where she was able to put forward her views about what she thought had now happened.
We've tried to listen very hard to what people have said about not wanting closure, even if closing one pond or reducing the hours meant that free swimming we could afford free swimming. We've listened to what people have said about not wanting intrusive or divisive barriers, and that's why we've gone for this sort of light touch we've called it self-policing, I know it's an unhappy term, but this light touch charging where we will really be levying a charge but relying on people's honesty. We won't have barriers that prevent people getting in.
Historically, the Heath budgets were overspent or underspent, but by relatively little, and appeared in the long run to be in equilibrium. And then since 2001, there's been quite substantial overspends.
There have been increasing overspends the last couple of years, which is why we've had to make decisions now to keep us within budget.
Do you know which precise areas of the Heath budget were responsible for the overspend?
That's very difficult. That's very difficult because of the way that our budget has worked in the past. We haven't broken it down by area. And we've done a lot of analysis over the past year leading up to the latest decisions, and we've now got quite a grasp on what we're spending where. I think that is all part of a much more financial realism coming from the corporation, which, yes, is a wealthy organisation, but has finite
income, finite resources. Well, I would be very sorry to see swimming stop, and I've always said, and I genuinely mean it, that swimming is, I know it's a very cherished activity on the Heath. It's very much part of what makes the Heath what it is. I think it would take a very long time before we would stop. I can't imagine us ever stopping swimming in the ponds, but I don't think we won't be able to afford it, and all the other activities and care of the Heath, if we have to carry on paying it at this level. Yeah.
If people didn't pay, are they breaking a bylaw? Are they trespassing? I mean, are these issues that...
I'm not sure, I have to say. I'm not sure the answer to that, actually, John. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
There's no enforcement of that charge from the Corporation of London.
I mean, we don't prosecute people for not paying when they go into the tennis courts, for example. So I'm not sure the exact legal status of that. Yes. It's a wonderful term. Yes.
It's a celebration of having got the season at all, because, as you know, they nearly closed it for good. And it's also an occasion to get people, because they tried to close it during the winter, to get people to sign up to the Mixed Pond Action Group, so that next time, this coming autumn, when they will undoubtedly try again, we will have thousands of people ready to say, it's our pond, we love it.
I can't even imagine why someone could even think about close something like this. It's lovely, it's divine. We live half an hour from the Caribbean Sea, so we're used to, rivers and ponds and stay by the sea, so it's kind of part of your culture, so that's probably the reason why we find this so lovely.
I feel as an alternative to this charging, which I totally disagree with, we should institute pay with a poem, and that would be a wonderful resource to gather as a sort of community kind of poem of why all sorts of different people love these places.
By would you? It's actually
Bueno, no. Pensé que estaba esta así.
By the time the mixed pond opened for the summer season, the judicial review about a winter swimming club had given its verdict. Another reason for some of the swimmers to celebrate.
So you're going in on that? No, another time?
The judicial review was an opportunity for a judge to say that there are limits to the scope of the nanny state. He really said, look, the truth is that people have not got to be oppressed by undue restrictions. And he came out fighting on that one.
I think the judge made a very sensible decision, and he was clearly well informed about the issues, about the health and safety issues, and passionate that people should be able to, take risks to a much greater degree than the current is running at the moment.
It would be as sad and cheerless and grey Britain if every risk were removed.
Yes.
And he opened his judgment with the Hampstead Heath ponds are a gift from God or from nature.
Well, he said the open spaces of London are a glory of London, and the most beautiful of them all is Hampstead Heath.
Lovely. There you are.
Case dismissed.
It's important to realise that we've had two victories. One, the judicial review, which applies to a small number of people on the Heath, but will have wider national implications. But the second victory was the victory to maintain 3 swimming facilities on the Heath. And those are the things that, in fact, all of us have got to be very proud of, and that we've got to make sure that we maintain in the future. We're hoping that we've been successful. We know that there will be threats, and we therefore just have to be aware of them. And hopefully they're going to be smaller ones than the ones we faced in the past. And maybe, in fact, we'll be very lucky, and the corporation will now decide that they have started to work with us and want to give us what we want rather than fight against us.
You're not expecting to have another winter of non-stop campaigning then?
No. Certainly not. Because it's had a national profile, this campaign, I think it's sent a message to others as well, that if they are prepared to fight, then in fact they can manage to get back the things that they've lost. Hopefully, this is going to be something that actually is a much, much wider campaign, both through London but also nationally.